Contrary to popular belief, I actually do try to debunk conspiracy theories. I know that my long-term listeners, long-time watchers, readers of my various websites, they're like, oh no, but you talk about conspiracy theories all the time. But the reality is, I want to focus on the conspiracy theories that are real. So I try to debunk them as much as possible. I don't want to not only waste our time, but waste our credibility with talking about conspiracy theories that are untrue. So when it came to the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, I thought, okay, so there are some out there that are trying to claim that this was intentional. And I thought, okay, so let's look into that, because that changes everything. If this is just a matter of incompetence, okay, that sucks, because it's an ecological disaster that could affect millions of people, maybe even more than millions. We could be looking at tens of millions. There's some that are saying that this could affect essentially the entire East Coast from a water and a food perspective, because this is bad stuff. Okay, I'm not even going to go into the scientific details. It's just you probably heard it ad nauseum. If you haven't, look it up. Bad stuff. Bad stuff. But the thing that got to me, okay, the reason that I started thinking, you know what, despite a little bit of minor anecdotal circumstantial evidence here or there, this really did seem to be just an accident. And the reason that I was thinking that is because of where it took place. Yeah, let's pull up a map real quick. It took place in an area that, to me at least, didn't seem ideal. So if you can see on the screen, here's East Palestine. You got Cleveland to the northwest. You got Pittsburgh to the southeast. It's kind of a little bit closer to Pittsburgh, but it's essentially halfway there. It's kind of like they picked a place where there's not very many people that could be affected by it, and obviously millions are going to be affected, and it's not a good thing that anybody's affected at all. But the point is, if you're an evil part of the globalist elite cabal putting together this master plan to take out the East Coast and try to destroy America's water system and try to destroy the East Coast's food supply and all that stuff, you wouldn't do it there. You would do it closer to a body of water, so probably northeast. You would have done it sooner, right? You would have gotten it closer to the Great Lakes, or you could take it even further south and go from there, right? Makes sense. Why would you pick essentially the place where it's almost the safest? As bad as it is, this could have been much, much worse had it happened, 30 miles further along, or 40 miles, 40, 50 miles before. Okay. So I was like, okay, we can essentially dismiss the possibility. Oh, but no, we can't, because then a report came out. A report over at it came out yesterday, and I missed it on the various networks, local networks. But then I was able to see it over at the Epoch Times. Ohio train may have burned for 20 miles before derailment. And in reality, the headline's technically incorrect. It burned for at least 20 miles and may have burned for a lot longer than that. Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, this is crazy. What if they actually tried to derail this train long before, closer to the Great Lakes, closer to where it could go from ecological disaster to full-blown ecological catastrophe? I mean, talking, beyond Chernobyl style of disaster. According to the article by Tom Azamek, security footage, camera footage has emerged showing that the Ohio train that derailed in East Palestine may have been on fire for 20 miles before it finally went off the tracks and burst into flames. The footage was first obtained by the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, was taken by a security camera at an equipment plant in Salem, Ohio. East Palestine is around 20 miles away from Salem. As the train passed the plant, what looks like flames and sparks can be seen in the video underneath the train. Let's go ahead and play a video. This is from CBS News. It's a little long. It's about a 4-minute video, but I want to go ahead and play that because, well, this kind of brings me back to the possibility. I'm not saying that it's conclusive, but it brings me back to at least the possibility that we could be looking at a full-blown conspiracy, that this could all be intentional. If they had tried to derail the train further to the northwest, closer to the Great Lakes, okay, closer to Cleveland, closer to Akron, then it would be like, okay, so this does have that whole evil globalist cabal plan vibe to it. This does feel like it could be a conspiracy. So let's go play that.
Stunning new video is raising questions about the condition of rail cars involved in the fiery train derailment that happened last week in Ohio.
Yeah, you may recall residents were forced to temporarily leave their homes after the train derailed in East Palestine. I know they say Palestine is the way they say it there. Earlier this month, releasing hazardous chemicals. And the video on your screen now shows that the train appeared to be on fire. This is interesting. 20 miles before it reached the site where it actually went off the tracks, derailed. Now, the footage on your screen is captured by a security camera at an equipment plant in Salem, Ohio.
Let's bring in Erica Moke. She's a reporter for our Pittsburgh affiliate KDK TV. Erica, what can you tell us about what this video is all about, what it shows, and what new questions does it raise?
Yeah, so the video that you're seeing is from Butech Bliss, and as you mentioned, it's an industrial equipment facility. You're seeing those sparks on a portion of the train, and as you mentioned, where this facility, where this video was shot, is about 20 miles from East Palestine, where that derailment happened, right? So the camera, when the train is passing that camera, when this footage was captured, this was around 8:12 that evening. The derailment happened, as I mentioned, 20 miles later at around 8:55. So this brings up the question of, okay, when was the crew on board made aware that there was an issue? So this brings up the issue of the detectors, which are alongside the tracks. And these detectors are in place so that the crew on board knows if there is something that is malfunctioning, if there is something that they need to be aware of, because if they're aware of that, it's to help them avoid situations exactly like the one that we are talking about here. Now, I spoke to a retired Norfolk Southern railroad engineer, and he was saying that these detectors are placed about every 20 miles. So we're right in that zone where we're questioning, okay, where was the detector? When was the crew alerted to an issue? We do know that the crew did get an alert. So anytime there is an issue on the tracks, that crew is alerted. Those detectors alert the crew on board. And when there is an alert, they do need to stop the train, in some cases immediately. Now, what this retired Norfolk Southern engineer was saying is that basically they were looking at, in this video, what could be considered a hot wheel. These detectors can detect if there is some sort of difference in temperature, right? So he believes that if the detector was in the area where we're seeing that hot wheel, the crew should have been notified right away. The question is if it was hot enough at the time when it went over the detector to notify them in time, or if they had already gone over that detector in, say, Salem, the Salem area, before that wheel started to spark and get hot. Like I said, we do know that there was an alert that was passed on to the crew. But again, it comes down to the question of where that detector was, how quickly they were able to get that message, and then ultimately stop that train. So those are the questions that are coming up now, and definitely something that the NTSB is looking into. They've talked with the crew members on board to see what alerts they got, when they got them, and they'll also be reviewing inward-facing cameras on that train and audio recorders to determine if their actions match up with what exactly they were supposed to be doing on that train when they get those alerts.
Wow. Erica Mokai, thank you so much for that thorough explanation. We'll stay tuned.
So, I mean, it's far from conclusive by any means. Oh, okay, so the train was on fire before. Does that mean that this is the machinations of the globalist elite cabal, and they tried to actually derail the train miles, probably more than 20 miles, by the way, before? Because obviously we see it at 20 miles away. What if it's been burning for 50 miles? We don't know. What if it was like right outside of Akron or wherever, and that's when we're supposed to derail, but then their plans got thwarted by whatever. We don't know. Okay, and again, this isn't definitive, but it does at least keep the possibility open. I was ready to shut the book and say, you know what, this does seem like it was likely an accident, and then just incompetence after incompetence after incompetence. Doesn't have the fingerprints of the globalist elite cabal. And then I see this, and it's like, okay, it's still possible. Okay, so you're telling me there's a chance, right? I laugh, but it's definitely not funny. Look, you could blow this off. You could say, oh, you know what, this definitely isn't it. And I understand. I can appreciate that. Okay. But you have to keep something in mind. If you just assume that all these crazy things that are happening in the world today, if you assume that none of them are part of a conspiracy, that nobody is out to get you, nobody's out to get all of us, then yeah, my best piece of advice is to start learning how to speak sheep, because that's what you're going to become. Bah! There's a reason Klaus Schwab, Joe Biden, and the globalist elites want your life savings locked in IRAs and other portfolio management schemes that they control. They can keep your money tied up in woke ESG funds, even if doing so will lose you money. Patriots are quickly moving their investments to self-directed IRAs backed by physical precious metals. Unfortunately, most companies that work in this field are beholden to Democrats, the Chinese Communist Party, the WEF, and others who are pushing us toward a digital dollar. I've identified 3 precious metals companies that believe in America first. These companies make it easy for you to move your retirements and investment to a self-directed IRA backed by physical precious metals. Go to jdrucker.com/gold. That's jdrucker.com/gold.